Catus, Maximus here, talking about the Icon swivel impact sockets. Real fast, of course, like all other Icons, they come in these plastic reusable cases. And of course, trays, so you can use these in your toolbox if you'd like, although they use up a huge amount of space. They do have a piece of cardboard to make them a little bit more stiff. Cardboard stiffener is the greatest. In my opinion, the fractional Icon impact sockets are a better deal than the metric. One of the things I've taken a close look at and don't really like about the Icon sockets is the way the sets are either oddly short, or in the Chrome sets, a lot of them are either skipping sizes or their range is pretty narrow. Even though they're reasonably cheap, the impact sockets, at least the straight sockets, it's a little bit odd because they have a short range. For instance, the metric 3/8 swivel sockets is only a 10-piece set, where it's a 12-piece set with the fractional. However, in the non-swivels, it's a 13-piece metric and then a 12-piece fractional set. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And the metric set is 7 through 19 millimeter, where on the swivels, it's just 10 through 19. Kind of disappointed, where on the fractional set, we've got everything from 5/16 up through 1 inch, no skips. They go by 16. Some sets that are really comprehensive, that are true master sets, will include some 30-second sockets. My impetus for getting these is really, it's probably one of the most neglected. The only swivel sockets I had besides the 3/8 SK set in metric was the very old school Pittsburghs here. These are actually like the second generation one. The first generation ones really had problems breaking apart. So they revised them with these, and I think they've even have a newer one than these. These were the spring style, and I thought they were okay. Although I had a friend where they really used them quite a bit, and the reduced area here meant a thin cross section for the cross beam or the cross pin, and it was really starting to get loose. Anyway, they're only 7-piece sets, and so I've been wanting to expand it for a while, so I did. The half-inch drive actually happens to be a 14-piece set, where the metric is a 13-piece set, and that's what's really kind of a little surprising, as you'd think on half-inch drive, the metric set would be larger. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on that because I built up a few of the metric ones, and it was a 12 through 24. And I really wish it would have been like a 12 through 27 or even a 10 through 27, something like that. I think they kind of shortchanged themselves. Really, when you're comparing to the 14-piece set and half-inch drive is really pretty comprehensive. We go all the way from 7/16, and you can get a little bit smaller. You can get 5/16 and half-inch from the professional brands, but really impressed me was it came with the 5 large sizes. No skips, all the way up to 1 1/4 inches here. There we go. Pretty large. This is about as large as you want to get for a impact swivel socket. Obviously, if you're working on rusty fasteners and an old piece of farm equipment or a bulldozer, you'll break the socket before you break a 1 1/4 inch bolt. But it is nice that they included this. It can be real handy because once you break one of these bolts, this can mean running it in and out with a great deal of speed. So that's really what attracted me, was the fact that it came with all the large sizes here. And to do a little comparison, we'll do the 3/8 1 inch versus the Icon half-inch drive 1 inch. Significantly larger forgings on that, and I thought it was a reasonable price deal. It happens to be $109 for the 3/8 or $110 and $150 for the half-inch. And if you get the 20% off coupon, it reduces a little bit. They used to have that 20% off right on the website, but now you have to wait for them to email it to you. A little annoying. And I was doing some measurement with the calipers versus the old Pittsburgh half-inch half-inch versions. And when I compare, say here with the Icon 3/4 inch, these are both 3/4 inch drive sockets, we can see how much more significant the Icon is. It is quite a bit beefier. The walls of the socket of the Icon are just a little bit thicker. Even the base is a little bit thicker. And of course, the big change on the Icons is the cross pin. These are pin drive. These aren't hex drive. There's some different styles now where they're hex drive or plus drive, trying to make them last a little longer than the way the pin drives work. But it seemed that they had been aware of some issues with their pin retention. So this ring here is not even swage. It's a quite thick press fit ring for the pin retention, and hopefully that will hold up. but they definitely are not the same as the Pittsburgh. Significantly heavier duty. Another thing, if I get this back again, and you can see here that the neck here is 50, 60 thousandths of an inch thicker than it is. This is around almost 600 thousandths, where this is just over 500 thousandths, just over a half inch on the old Pittsburgh. So the necks are even stiffer. These are, of course, chrome molybdenum steel, because it's the most, the particular grades. Remember, when people say chrome vanadium and chrome molybdenum, steels are like recipes. There's dozens of different grades of molybdenum-based steels, and there is 100 grades of vanadium-based steels. So there certainly are chrome vanadium-based impact sockets. They're not made very often after doing some research because they're much more expensive, and you have to go through a more comprehensive heat treatment process to make chrome vanadium impact sockets, although they do end up lasting longer. So most manufacturers just go with grades of chrome molybdenum. They wear out faster, but they just absolutely do not have to worry about any cracking issues, and if they do fail or something like that, it's more cost effective from a corporate standpoint to replace them. It's really the truth about chrome molybdenum. It just isn't as strong a metal as chrome vanadium steels. And chrome vanadium steels, you can get particular grades and give them particular heat treatment processes, so they're not quite as hard as a chrome socket. They work great for impacts. It's just too much money. Why were so many wrenches, like the famous VL check wrenches, chrome molybdenum wrenches during World War II? It's because vanadium steels were reserved for munitions and other war implements, and so tools are actually further down on the list, and so they were made out of chrome molybdenum steel just due to availability and cost. I do like that they are using pretty much unique forgings on all the sockets, but I notice this with all manufacturers. It's really expensive to have a different forging die over and over and over again for all these different sockets. So a couple places, say the 3/8 here, the 3/8 drive, I should say, on both the 3/8 and the 7/16, we can see that the same body or the same exterior forging was used on both of those, because they have the same exterior diameter, and we can see the wall is just really thick on the 3/8 where it's more normal in the 7/16. I did want to point that out, but that isn't exclusive to like Harbor Freight tools. There are professional brands that do the same thing, just because it can save quite a bit of money just cutting out one set of forging dies. And on the 1/2 inch, the same thing is happening between the 7/16 and the 1/2 inch size. Same external diameter, yet super thick walls on the 7/16 and a bit thinner on the 1/2 inch. So that pretty much covers the details of these. Other thing I wanted to mention over the Pittsburgh is the springs in these. They do have springs in them just to provide a little bit of tension, so they're just not totally flopping everywhere. Those springs themselves are obviously quite a bit stiffer than they are on the old Pittsburghs. Perhaps we should run some bolts with these. Just after I mentioned that indeed, even the 1/2 inch set will indeed fit on a 20-inch socket rail, which does please me. Might as well do some impacting. I'll start off with the little 3/8 here, see how it does. I really love impact swivels. A lot of mechanic shops, pretty much just the only sockets they use, unless they're too wide to actually fit in the space. Actually, that little DeWalt doesn't work too bad. Might as well do the 1/2 incher. We'll find it in a different place. I'll tell you, this earthquake impact wrench is cheesy, but at least they finally learned on a lot of these electric impact wrenches. They just put in huge weight, and even the cheesy ones hit so hard now. Definitely pretty beefy. Not a lot else to say. That was a super titanium, so that was a very hard, super strong bolt, just to see how much wear. We can already see, just like any impact socket, it starts to roll over, but to tell you the truth, I've seen some soft ones that have done worse on the first use than these, so they appear they're going to work out great. And for anybody who doesn't have swivel sockets, they're absolutely amazing. They're constant velocity. They don't kink or do any weird stuff like standard universal joints, and the fact that you're, particularly with power tools, not having to be absolutely straight on just makes these unbelievable. They're just super duper time savers, and of course can be used with hand tools, and there's absolutely great with speed handles and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, there's my review. In this case, the fractional ones, because if you go pound for pound, you get more socket for the money than you do all the metrics, and you just get these huge spreads. I particularly have neglected my fractional socket, so I had an excuse, but I won't be getting the metric ones. And even if I did, I'd probably be looking somewhere else, because this is so disappointing to see a 12 through 24 metric set, and for $10, and 24 millimeters is less than an inch. It's 15/16. So you would be basically, the metric set goes from the small to here on the ½ inch. It just is a millimeter is about 1/25 of an inch. So they have, 13 sockets only to go from what would be 12 millimeters, 7/16 through 15/16. Where in this set, you pay $10 more, and for the amount of range, you get the 5 large ones. These big boys are definitely, even the 1 3/16, which is actually probably one of the rarest sizes you'll run into, that, and the 1 5/16. I actually kind of like these, especially with swivels, because usually when you do break them, either they're old, or you may be using them by hand with the breaker bar, and it just ends up shearing either the fork or the pin. And at least you can just go in there and swap out for some other ones, unless, of course, they're out of stock, which is always special. Anyway, and for anybody who's asked, Harbor Freight, of all the reviews, Harbor Freight has never sent me anything, ever, period. Except for one time, they sent some executive there or whatever, sent me an email criticizing one of my videos. So the only thing I've ever received in all the videos I made from Harbor Freight is one email criticizing me. So no, I don't get free stuff from Harbor Freight. As a matter of fact, only Olsa has ever sent me any hand tools, and one Chinese saw that I absolutely hated, which that Gnor saw. But otherwise, besides the Olsa box wrenches and torque wrenches, I haven't received any tools from anyone. So just wanted to clear that up. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.